Well, anybody who sees my gut knows that I like food, you know, Mediterranean or otherwise. But a big part of my growing practices are to grow crops without any chemical inputs, organic or otherwise. And for me to do that, I need the plants to be as at home and as unstressed here as possible. And it so happens that here in the Bay Area, we do have a lot of people who have a big interest in Mediterranean food. They're either Italian or Italian wannabes or Portuguese, or they like to eat at Rose Pistola or Chez Panisse, or you know, they've been to France or whatever. And I can take advantage of that market by growing crops that appeal to those people. But if you were to look at our farm on the globe, and if you were to draw a line through our farm around the latitude, you'd cross right through Ragusa, Sicily. And that's important to me because I know that heirloom crops that were nurtured in some place like Sicily at this latitude with more or less these conditions, those crops are likely to do quite well here for me. I like to use heirloom crops because they have a certain, you know, antique appeal. I like to use heirloom crops because they were nurtured and brought out from, you know, weed state into being crops in a non-chemical environment. I try and grow a diverse spectrum of crops, so I find that I can do well with summer crops like tomatoes, Charente melons, peppers, eggplant, onions. As we head into the fall, we'll begin planting lots of root crops, parsley, parsnips, parsley root, several different kinds of carrots. We'll do some greens crops, arugula and things like that. In the early spring, we do another flush of quick turnover greens crops, and then we're back into the summer program. And throughout the whole year, we're nurturing big patches of long-term crops like artichokes. I think of my own farm as being different because I have a personal commitment to trying to run the farm year-round. I do not believe in migrant labor. I think that it may be a necessary evil sometimes, but it's an evil nonetheless. And I do not want to have, you know, I do not want to be building a migrant society. I want people to be rooted in one place. The word organic has been defined by the government, and it has now a very concrete, discrete, government-approved meaning. It's no longer up to people like me, you know, to say what organic means. The government has stepped in and they've defined it. When I was starting out in organic farming and we were trying to create a different model of farming, the government wasn't giving us any help at all. In fact, the government was stepping in at every, you know, occasion and trying to stall us out, either on the federal level by refusing to recognize the validity of any of our claims, or on the local level. I can recall being told quite specifically by Ag Commissioner agent in Monterey County that, you know, if I didn't, you know, get my weeds under control by such and such a date, he was authorized to bring a plane in and spray me. And so I have a sense of antagonism about the government's role in agriculture. Organic farming doesn't mean anything to me anymore because it's not my term anymore. It's, for me to survive in farming, it's not enough to have an organic certificate. I can go through the hoops to get the organic certificate. I have been certified organic in the past. I've been registered organic in the past. But the monies that it costs me, it's not worth it, because if I get that seal, you know, that seal in a gun can't get me into Whole Foods. You know, that seal in an act of Congress cannot get me into the wider wholesale marketplace with my organic product. And any longer, I have decided that I'm going to turn that necessity to figure out another way to make a living in farming into a virtue. And in fact, the focus of my farm now is on creating a direct marketing approach where everything is sold locally to people that I know, with whom I can contact personally, and I can put my agenda out there for them. I don't need the government to step in, charge me, and give me some sticker. Because I think the real story now that's going to occupy consumers' minds over the next 10 years is not organic versus conventional, but big versus small. What we've seen is that with the success of organic practices, many large conventional farms have not only diversified into certified organic production, but they are adapting organic techniques on their conventional side. And I don't have a problem with that. I think that's great. It just leaves me personally with a new challenge to try and find a marketplace for myself. And in that challenge to find a marketplace, the organic seal does not help. I sell at the San Francisco Ferry Plaza Farmers Market, and I'm delighted to do so. It's a great market. It is a market that has grown out of a need in an area. It's much more meaningful for me to interact with the endpoint user than with the wholesaler. For a couple of reasons. One, often the endpoint user is quite happy. And I would much rather have somebody tell me how excited they were with their basil or how happy they were with their new potatoes than never hear about it at all. A wholesaler is not, their main job is not to pat you on the back and tell you how great your stuff is. Their main job is to get your product as cheap as they can and sell it for the highest margin. My philosophy of farming is to try and leave the ground in better shape than when I started with it. My philosophy of farming is to remain as open as I conceivably can to change, because nothing stays the same in farming. As an organic farmer or as a post-organic farmer, I do not want to be using any kind of so-called crop protection products whatsoever. I don't have an ironclad theory about what I'm doing. I want to leave it open to try and pick up any new information I can.